If you had met Kunle and Tomi during the first few years of their marriage, you probably would have described them as one of those couples that simply worked. Not the type that flooded social media with romantic photos every week, but there was something solid about them. Something comfortable, something that made people believe they genuinely enjoyed each other's company. Their marriage wasn't built on grand gestures, it was built on friendship. And for a long time, that friendship seemed unbreakable. The two of them had met at an engagement party in Surulere nearly 10 years earlier. At that time, neither of them expected anything significant from the evening because Kunle had just arrived directly from work, exhausted from fighting Lagos traffic. Tomi had only attended because her cousin refused to stop calling her. Then a simple conversation brought them together, then another, until speaking to each other became the best part of their day. Back then, they could talk for hours about work, family, dreams, fears, things that mattered and things that didn't. There was never a shortage of words. Even silence felt comfortable because it wasn't empty. It was shared. When they eventually got married, everyone believed they were starting the kind of marriage that would last forever. And to be fair, they believed it too. The first year was beautiful, not that everything was easy, but because they faced everything together. I mean, like, if Kunle had a difficult day at work, Tomi would know about it before bedtime. And if Tomi was frustrated with a client, Kunle would hear the full story before dinner. Every experience became something they carried together, and without realizing it, those conversations were strengthening their marriage every single day. Life became busier. Kunle received a promotion at work. It was the kind of opportunity he had prayed for. More money, more responsibility, and more pressure. The promotion meant longer hours and higher expectations. Suddenly, he wasn't just doing his job anymore. He was managing people, solving problems, and carrying responsibilities home with him. Around the same time, Tomi's fashion business began growing faster than she expected. What started as a small dream quickly became a demanding reality. New customers arrived, orders increased, deadlines became tighter, and for the first time, she felt excitement of success. But that success came with its own weight. Both of them were building something important. They were trying to secure a better future, and neither of them realized they were slowly sacrificing the thing they were working so hard to protect. At first, the changes seemed harmless. A missed conversation here and there, a distracted response, a postponed discussion, a delayed date night. Nothing dramatic, nothing alarming, just moments. The kind most couples ignore, if you know what I mean. One evening, after an exhausting day, Tomi came home eager to tell Kunle about a difficult customer who had nearly cost her a major contract. She had replayed the story several times during her drive home. She imagined the two of them laughing about it together. But when she walked into the living room, Kunle was buried in work. His laptop sat open. His phone buzzed constantly. His attention was divided between emails, reports, deadlines, and so Tomi began talking anyways. At first, she believed he was listening because after all, he occasionally nodded, responded, occasionally looked up, but something felt different. It wasn't just there. And by the time she finished talking, she realized he couldn't even explain what she had said. He had heard her voice, but he hadn't really heard her. So the disappointment was huge. It wasn't enough to cause an argument. Still, a small part of her felt unseen, a feeling she quickly buried. After all, he was working out for their future, wasn't he? The problem was that moments like that started happening more often. Weeks became months, months became years, and without discussing it, both of them adapted. Kunle became more focused on work, Tomi became more focused on her business. Whenever loneliness appeared, they distracted themselves with responsibilities. Whenever disappointment appeared, they ignored this, and whenever frustrations appeared, they convinced themselves things would improve once life became less busy. But unfortunately, life really becomes less busy. So one afternoon, while sitting with our friend Amaka at a cafe in Lekki, Tomi found herself talking about her marriage in a way she had never before. Nothing terrible happened, yet something felt wrong. Amaka listened carefully as Tomi struggled to explain what she was feeling. The words didn't come easily. How do you describe emotional distance when there is no obvious cause? How do you explain loneliness when you are not actually alone? Eventually, she said something that surprised even her. She admitted she no longer knew what was happening inside her husband's heart. The realization sat heavily in the air because the moment she said it, she knew it was true. She knew his routines, she knew his schedules, time he left for work, what food he liked, what shows he watched, but she no longer knew what he was carrying emotionally. And if she was honest, he probably didn't know what she was carrying either. That thought followed her home. It followed her for days. The more she thought about this, the more she realized how much had changed. They still spoke, mostly about logistics, bills, appointments, family obligations, errands. The conversations necessary to run household, the conversations that keep a home functioning, but not the conversations that keep us connected. I mean, emotional conversations. The distance continued growing, not because either of them wanted it, but because neither of them knew how to stop it. Then one night, Tommy woke up around midnight and noticed Kunle wasn't in bed. She found him sitting alone in the living room. The TV was off, lights were dim, his laptop sat closed beside him. For the very first time in months, he wasn't working. He was simply sitting there, staring into space, looking exhausted emotionally. And for a moment, she saw something she hadn't noticed before. Kunle looked lonely too, and that realization changed everything because up until then, she had quietly viewed herself as the only victim of the growing distance. Now she began wondering whether he was struggling just as much. The next morning, she paid closer attention. She noticed how quiet he had become. How rarely he talked about work anymore, how often he carried stress without mentioning it, how many times he seemed to start speaking only to stop himself. For the first time in years, she became curious about him again, and not as a husband, not as a provider, but as a person. The curiosity that led to most important conversations of their marriage. One Saturday evening, after weeks of hesitation, Tommy finally decided to speak about them. The conversation was uncomfortable from the beginning. Both of them struggled to find the right words because years of unspoken feelings don't disappear in 5 minutes. But something remarkable happened. Instead of becoming defensive, they listened. And for the first time in a very long time, they told each other the truth. Kunle admitted he had been overwhelmed for years. He confessed that somewhere along the way, he stopped sharing his struggles because he didn't want to add stress to his life. Now, Tomi also admitted she had felt abandoned emotionally. She confessed that she had spent years waiting for him to notice her loneliness while never fully expressing it herself. Neither of them intended to hurt the other. Neither of them woke up one morning and decided to grow apart. They simply stopped letting each other into their inner worlds, and then, once they understood that, something shifted. Not instantly, not magically. Healing really works that way, but it began. Over the following months, they became intentional. They created space for conversations again, the kind they used to have. Some nights, the discussion lasted 15 minutes, other nights, they lasted hours. Slowly, they learned each other again. They rebuilt trust. The silence lost its power. The marriage wasn't saved by one grand gesture, it was saved by small moments, repeated consistently. Distance had not started when they considered separation. Distance had started years when they stopped sharing themselves with each other, and healing began the moment they started talking again. One thing that stood out to me in this story is how easy it is for emotional distance to develop without either person noticing. Many people imagine that struggling marriages are always filled with constant arguments and obvious problems. But what makes this situation interesting is that Kunle and Tomi still loved each other. The love never disappeared. The connection simply just stopped being maintained. I think many people can relate to this because life becomes busy, responsibilities increase, work demands more attention, children arrive, businesses grow, and before long, meaningful conversations get replaced by practical conversations. The relationship begins functioning like a business partnership instead of an emotional partnership. Another important reality is that neither Kunle nor Tomi was entirely right or entirely wrong. Both of them were hurting, both of them were lonely, both of them were waiting to be understood, and both of them struggled to communicate. Sometimes the greatest threat to a relationship isn't conflict, it's silence, because silence creates assumptions, assumptions create distance, and distance creates disconnection. The encouraging part of this story is that connection can often be rebuilt when people become intentional again, not through perfection, not through dramatic gestures, but through consistent presence and honest communication. So the lesson here is that love does not disappear overnight. Most of the time, it fades through neglect, distraction, and unspoken emotions. Distance begins long before separation, and closeness begins long before reconciliation. The quality of a relationship is often determined by the quality of conversations happening inside it. Never assume someone knows what you are feeling. Never assume silence will solve what honesty can heal. The strongest relationships are not the ones without problems. They are the ones where people keep choosing to communicate even when communication feels difficult. I hope you enjoyed every part of the story, and so thank you. So I have some questions to my dear subscribers. Have you ever experienced emotional distance in a relationship even when love was still present? And do you think silence is sometimes more dangerous than conflict in a marriage or relationship? What practical habits help couples stay emotionally connected during busy seasons of life? So here we are. Thank you for spending these moments with me. If this story resonated with you, don't keep it to yourself. Share your thoughts in the comments and join the conversation. And if you are enjoying these stories, remember to subscribe so you never miss an episode. This is Ginger Podcast, real stories, real lesson, real growth.